Mahesh Dattani, born in 1958, is a playwright, stage director, actor, screenwriter, filmmaker, and author of succession of groundbreaking plays that firmly established English as a viable medium in contemporary Indian theatre. He won the Sahitya Academy, Central Sahitya Academy Award in 1998 for his drama Final Solutions. Dattani belongs to a generation of writers who use English language without either pride or guilt. That's a very important thing to realize that that neither pride is involved, that we are using English. So the snobbery that comes associated with use of English language in certain parts and in certain generation is not reflected in Dattani, nor is there guilt as has been also seen in many writers of his and earlier generations and later generations also about writing in English, that it's not part of his intellectual makeup. Something that we have discussed in the earlier lectures, where writers have been accused that they probably are writing in English to cater to a larger audience, but they are not in sync with their Indian part of their life, or they are not representing Indian realities. Those both these sides, the pride or guilt, were not to be seen with Dattani, who thought English as his medium of expression. When a journalist asked why didn't he write in his own language, he replied, "I do," which again tells you that it was not a kind of a triumphantic avowal or a guilt-ridden assertion in that sense, where he was floating between those two extremes. His published works include Final Solution and Other Plays, collected plays, and more recently Me and My Plays. I would advise anyone who is interested in Dattani or Indian drama in English to read Me and My Plays, because it has very interesting commentaries and autobiographical reflection on his life and how he came to write plays itself. Which his plays are produced in all major Indian cities as well as cities abroad, including London, Leicester, New York, Washington DC, Sydney, Colombo and Dubai. Select plays also have been translated and performed in Hindi, Gujarati, Kannada, Odia, Assamese and Nepali, and appear on the syllabi of numerous Indian and foreign universities, including University of Wisconsin at Madison. Dattani's film Mango Souffle was screened at several international festivals, including the London Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, and received the Best Motion Picture Award at the Barcelona Film Festival in 2003. Another film, Morning Raga, for which he wrote and directed in 2005, had its international premiere at the Cairo Film Festival in December that year and won the award for Best Artistic Contribution. The script for this film has been archived by the Academy of Motion Pictures, United States. Dattani's recent plays include Where Did I Leave My Parda, 2012, adapted into a film by the similar name in 2020, Gauhar, 2016, Snapshots of a Fervid Sunrise, 2017, Untouchable, 2020, and Dance Like a Goddess, 2024. If we come to the play that we have chosen for our discussion, Dance Like a Man, is a stage play in 2 acts. It's remarkable about around 2-3 themes that we'll obviously discuss, but if we focus on before we start discussing the play, we'll have a look at the summary of it. That what exactly is the play about? The play is about 3 generations. At the center of it are a couple called Jairaj and Ratna. Jairaj and Ratna both are Bharatanatyam dancers, and both of them got to know each other through Bharatanatyam, fell in love, got married, and Jairaj has a father whose name is Amritlal Parekh, who does not like Jairaj dancing. He thinks for a man to be dancing, it can be a hobby but not a profession, and he dislikes Jairaj as a dancer because he thinks it's not a manly act, that he's not acting like a man, and that's why the title becomes very significant, Dance Like a Man. So as our readers would have understood, there is a sustained discussion on this idea of manliness or the idea of masculinity, that what exactly constitutes or defines a man, or how do we assign gender roles. All of the Tanis plays have a sustained focus on this idea of gender itself, that what exactly does gender mean? How do we categorize our societies into these fixed roles of a man and woman? And that's what you will see here also happening, and we'll come to it in a we'll come to it to discuss how this becomes the focus of the play itself. As I said, Amritlal Parekh does not like Jairaj dancing, and he actively dissuades them from dancing itself, being fed up with Amritlal's constant interference into their lives. Jairaj and Ratna, who were living with him, they leave his house and go on to live separately, but only briefly. Something happens there, and we'll come to what happens there. They go out and live with Ratna's uncle, uh, who we is suggested tries to sexually assault her, for which they come back to Amritlal's house to stay back, because they don't have any other place to stay. They are married, they don't have any other place to stay there. So they come back to Amritlal's house. Jairaj, who had earlier denounced his father's interference and interventions in his life and chose freedom and walked out of his house, has to swallow his pride and come back to Amritlal's house, who now has a golden opportunity to do whatever he wanted, to put any conditions to keep them in the house itself. So, what Amritlal asks, and in which Ratna becomes a willing partner in sorts of things, is that he wants Jairaj to not dance, and he wants Ratna to facilitate that. He says, I will allow you to dance to Ratna, and for that to be allowed, and I'll also give you some money to spare, as both of them don't earn except for their dancing performances, and at this time they are not established dancers, they are just starting their career. And he says that the only condition will be that Ratna has to find ways to not let Jairaj dance. So Ratna finds ways for Jairaj to not dance, and Jairaj finally is dissuaded and finds that he's not good enough to be on the stage, turns to drinking and drinks heavily, and constantly gloats in the idea that he's a failure, he's not been able to provide for his family, he's not a man enough, and he's reminded again and again that by Ratna and others that he's spineless and everything of that order. So Jairaj sinks and sinks into drinking itself, and they kind of have a dysfunctional marriage, where Ratna has become a known figure in the cultural circles, and Jairaj, because he's known, he's with Ratna, kind of is known. And we are also in that way shown a very dark side of parenting from Amritlal, who risks his son being a drunkard, then being a dancer. Again, something that goes back to the question of being a man, that like dancing is not something that you look up to in a man, as he says, and then we'll come to a detailed exploration of that theme also. In the meanwhile, what happens is that Jairaj and Ratna, thanks to their dysfunctional relationship, have lose their first child. His name is Shankar. They try to overcome this, but by that time they have drifted apart, thanks to Amritlal's insidious motives and Ratna's able participation in it. And they have drifted after the child dies. They have another child called Lata. Lata is again a Bharatnatyam dancer under the able stewardship of Ratna and some support from Jairaj. Ratna turns Lata into her project, trying to actively control parts of her life, Bharatnatyam dancing, and like her training and everything. The idea of like putting a good show for her, trying to bribe the reviewers to get her a good review and to establish her in the circle of dance itself. So Ratna becomes fully invested in that idea. When the play opens, we meet Lata and his boyfriend at this point of time and partner Vishwas, who she has brought to meet her parents Jairaj and Ratna. So Vishwas seems to be not too much interested in dance itself, and there are hints that he may not also like Lata dancing after seeing her recent performances, which he thinks are erotic. So there are hints that he might not like the entire entire idea of Lata dancing in front of people. So we don't know what is going to happen after they get married. This is the basic plot of the entire play. Very interestingly, this plot is smartly used by Dattani to highlight 2-3 points. One, as we have talked about, the idea of masculinity, also the idea of tradition and modernity and generations, by using very few actors and repeating those actors by switching their roles. So what happens is that younger Jairaj also plays the role of Vishwas, whereas older Jairaj becomes Amritlal becomes older Jairaj. So what one sees is a switching of roles, as well as also a hint to the reader that some of these traits continue as well as change also. So the older Amritlal and the older person of Amritlal and older Jairaj are played by the same person, whereas younger Jairaj and Vishwas are played by the same person. Younger Ratna and Lata are played by the same person. So one can see mirrors of each other, that when they were young, what were they like, and when they become old, what are they like? Do their attitudes change, behaviors change? What is the shift between generations? What are their ideas about each other? Do they repeat those ideas? Does and the play through these smart innovative gestures keeps the play very sparse. You need very little theater props. You also need very few actors in that stage, and it becomes uh, a very interesting site for the readers to exercise their imagination as well as look at the play much more critically, because you look at the same persons now donning different roles, and you realize that probably what Dattani is trying to tell us is that how roles of masculinity continue even when generations change. We have 3 generations of men here, Amritlal, Jairaj and Vishwas. We have 2 generations of Ratna and Lata, women here. And very importantly, one sees a certain, as I said, Vishwas is uncomfortable with the idea of Lata dancing, just like Amritlal was uncomfortable with Jairaj and Ratna dancing. Whereas the same person playing Amritlal and Jairaj has certain similarities. You can also see, even though different actors playing Amritlal and Vishwas, there is a certain amount of continuity that is there. Vishwas is like Amritlal, invested in many material things like property, money, and is pragmatic about those things, unlike Jairaj, who is not very pragmatic, who is invested in creative efforts and creative acts like dance. Amritlal also, like Vishwas, uh, comes across as progressive, but the play constantly punctures this progressive attitude of theirs, because it keeps trying to show us and tell us that that's not probably what it looks like. It's very important to remember, and we'll come back to this point in the succeeding lectures, that Amritlal is a nationalist, and this is taking place around post-independence India, recently independent India, one who was a freedom fighter and also a reformist. Jairaj constantly asks this question of him, and also does Ratna, that what kind of reformist is he? He wants to reform societies. He wants the new India to not be exactly like the old India. He comes across as progressive. He is forward thinking, but it seems to stop at his door. All that progressive attitude, all this reformist agenda seems to stop at his door. It does not seem to be applied to his son and daughter-in-law, with whom he has a very orthodoxical relationship of orthodoxy, very conventional when it comes to parentage. You see the similar kind of control, though, being exerted as it was exerted by Amritlal, by Ratna on Lata, who carefully wants to curate all her work, carefully wants to show the world how it is done, even though they are okay with she marrying this person Vishwas, because Vishwas will let her dance. That's the only criteria, unlike Amritlal. So there are major similarities as well as there are dissonances that one can see in both their attitudes in terms of the play itself, like in terms of, even though they come across as similar. So, in terms of attitude, if Amrit Lal seems to closer to Vishwas, in terms of his control on his children's life, if Amrit Lal comes close to Ratna, Amrit Lal also comes closer to Jairaj, because much like Amrit Lal, Jairaj also comes across as a failed parent, because he has left his parental duties and has gone around drinking. Amrit Lal is not shown to be drinking, but Jairaj seems to also have failed as a parent. We will discuss more about it when we discuss how Shankar dies. So, you see various ways in which characters seem similar to each other, characters seem different from each other, and you will also see that characters cut across to different genders itself. They find alter egos in different genders itself. They find similarities in terms of their public perception, trying to be in the limelight. Amrit Lal seems more like Ratna, or that's what the play suggests. So, one can see all these continuities and discontinuities, and therefore, one also sees another interesting facets of it, is the idea and harping on what is exactly a man. The masculinity discourse itself is repeatedly asked and enacted. Like in terms of masculinity discourse, Amrit Lal seems to be closer to Vishwas in terms of his conservative attitude towards his children. Amrit Lal also seems closer to what a man should do, or the role of a man in terms of taking charge of the household, much closer to Ratna than to Jairaj or Lata in that sense. Jairaj's idea of a man seems vastly different from all these three people, even though the closer that he comes, that like dancing does not make him less of a man, will be to Ratna only. Ratna does not think he is less of a man because he was a dancer. She thinks he is less of a man because he does not have a control over his life, does not have control over his his house, does not act, or does not earn money for the household itself. In that sense, Ratna does not think Jairaj is a man, which is also concerns that Amrit Lal also shares, that he does not have earning and everything. So, that way he is not a man. Jairaj therefore becomes a very crucial character through which the exploration of this play happens about masculinity, as we will come to have a look at it closely in the next lecture.